you've done a very good job in Iowa, open space and land use, but maybe it was an accident right on the interstate, so we came around. Thank you again for meeting with me. And I'd like to say a few words, but I mainly want to listen to you guys. As you know, I'm running for president, and I'm moving up in the polls. I just got a great news, so you may be talking to a president. Just in case, what I'd like to do is just learn from you. I'm a governor, and I work very closely with my firefighters, my police department, my state police, my first responders, Homeland Security. And so I'm more technically involved in some of these programs than perhaps others that deal with this issue. What I'd like to do is just share some thoughts, but then I want your advice on what we're doing, on what we can do as a country, and assume that I am dealing with federal issues. The first point I want to make is you guys are the country's unsung heroes, and you don't get enough credit, and you're not paid enough. Let me kind of be blunt about that. As a start, what first responders do is you protect people, and as happened in New Orleans and many other cases, the firefighters probably have the most riskiest job in the world. Maybe police right behind or the same. You put your lives at risk for the people. Accordingly, I believe you need the best equipment. Accordingly, I believe you need strategies from the federal government that work with you rather than telling you how it's going to be done. And lastly, as individuals, I know you're all members of the union, which I think is very healthy because the unions protect people. Although I know with the firefighters, you've got a Social Security issue that I will try to deal with, where you're victimized in terms of your Social Security retirement monies. I don't know if it's the case with police also.
Yes,
it is the same, so it's all law enforcement. The second point I want to make is that it is important, I believe, that if I'm president, when it comes to salaries and benefits, I'd like to see a way that the federal government can participate with local communities, with local first responders, to help with salary increases. We have serious problems in this country with recruitment and retainment of first responders. There are problems relating to housing, affordable housing in some of our major cities. We can't afford to live because of the cost of living. And so I'd like to find a partnership that involves the federal government, state, and local entities working closer together. I think the state, the federal government is much too distant when it comes to dealing with our first responders. The second point I want to make, if you look at where policy is made in this country, most of the sensible policy on education, on healthcare, and on Homeland Security is happening at the state level. Unless you guys are coming back with great wisdom from the Homeland Security Department. I think you figured out what is best to protect Iowa. To have, as you mentioned, a Homeland Security strategy in this country that I have faulted, but I believe it's important that there be more input by state and local entities. That mayors and governors have more of a say in Homeland Security policy than we presently have. The third point I want to make is in terms of federal assistance to Homeland Security, first responders, firefighters, police. If you look at the budgets, whether it's the SAFER grants, whether it's Homeland Security grants, whereas firefighters grants, you have been cut 50% of the request that the president made to Congress, which was not that adequate. I think the figure that I saw was $1 billion has been asked for first responders, $1 billion, and only $100 million has been appropriated for the whole country. I think it's important that these grants and the commitment of the Congress and the President be strong that you get these grants. The second point I wanted to make is that in developing a strategy for Homeland Security and who gets funds, who gets equipment, who gets safer grants, it should be based on risk base. It shouldn't be based on pork, although that's not a good word to use in Iowa, right? You know what I mean. It shouldn't be based on politics, shouldn't be based on rural and urban, everybody proportionally gets the same. It should be based on, you know, what are the risks? And I do believe you've outlined the risks here in Iowa. This is an important Midwest state with, I believe, what its biggest potential vulnerability or attraction to terrorists is the agricultural base of this state. You know, a lot of America's food is produced here. And, you know, if you're not going to attack the major cities, you're a terrorist. You look at other places that have large populations, agricultural bases. I think you outlined yourself that the interstate, the fact that Iowa is contiguous to many other states. You know, when I land to Iowa, I've landed in about 10 states to get here. You got every state around you. Did you notice that? In Minneapolis, I've landed in Omaha, where else? Chicago, God, every state abounds you, except New Mexico. What I'm trying to say is that I think this is a strategic part of the country that needs to be protected, along with the agricultural base, the interstates. Other points that I want to make is that when it comes to first responder issues, I believe that we need to lead in other health areas that maybe had not been discussed here in terms of the government providing vaccines for potential anthrax attacks, plans for evacuation in case of a potential food attack, contingencies that I'm sure you've thought of, but the Homeland Security Department needs, in my judgment, to get its act together and not just provide proper funding, but some kind of contingency plans. You know, I wasn't happy recently, and I'm not going to try to get terribly political in this meeting, but I saw the head of Homeland Security in Chicago in an interview. He said he had a gut feeling that we were going to be attacked this summer. You know, I like a little more than that. I like intelligence. I think we have to find ways too that we deal with coordinating intelligence, that we find ways that our intelligence agencies share more information with you, the FBI, and many others. I know a lot of these issues are proprietary, they involve secrecy laws, but my sense is that information many times is not shared. I try to find out what this Homeland Security director meant. Was it in my border in New Mexico, where I fear, by the way, a nuclear material coming across the border and being brought in by maybe not a terrorist, but some rogue entity? And then what? I want to be able to have enough detection and equipment, because at our border we're dealing with illegal immigration, we're dealing with drugs, and I don't want a nuclear material coming in, and I don't want a panic set forth by inadequate protection. So we try to do as much as we can is coordinate with other states, intrastate agreements. We try also in my state to make it easier for police and firefighters. My state police, grossly underfunding. I've come forth and they couldn't recruit and retain, and given them raises that are close to 30%. So they are competitive with city and other police departments around the country. Funds for presumptive liability, so firefighters are, not sued in case of a potential accident. I know volunteer firefighters. There's a difference, and a little sensitivity, but I think we got to at least protect firefighters that might do volunteer work, but they're recruited into a forest fire, which we have a lot, and then all of a sudden they miss a job and they lose their job. I mean, there's got to be some basic protections against